Price of oil is, of course, part of that, and let's talk about that now. The new Trans Mountain Expansion Pipeline will begin to move oil in just a few weeks. The federal government has vowed to sell the project once construction is complete, but that sale could turn out to be nearly as contentious as the pipeline itself. Kyle Bax is in Calgary. He's been covering this for us and has the very latest on this. $34 billion, Kyle. As you well know, that was the cost to build the TMX pipeline. At the end of the day, how much is it worth?
Heather, not that much. In fact, speaking with a lot of experts, they say the number could be half of that value. So not 34, not 30, not 25, maybe 20 billion or even less than that. And that's basically just based on the tolls that are set right now for how much it costs for oil shippers to use this pipeline to move oil from Alberta to the West Coast. There are some interim tolls that have been raised, but even based on that, they say the value of the pipeline only about half of the cost to construct it, half of that $34 billion. And so that's why the federal government could take a big hit on this project. That said, there still are buyers who are interested in this project. They have been for several years throughout this whole construction phase, and they are interested in buying it, including some Indigenous-led groups. Have a listen.
Those revenues would contribute to building houses every year. They would contribute to developing our youth for further training and development, and provide another source of continued revenue to come into the nation.
And so the federal government has always said, when it bought this pipeline 6 years ago, that it did not want to be the long-term owner, and that when it does sell, it would like to have some sort of Indigenous participation. And so that could come in different forms. It could be one of these Indigenous-led groups that specifically wants to buy the project, or it could be a share of the ownership goes to Indigenous groups, but then the rest could be sold to a pension fund, something like that. There's lots of different options here.
Well, let's talk about it. I mentioned that $34 billion. The original cost estimate was 7.5, so that's where it's ballooned to. How difficult is all of this to manage politically for the Liberal government? Could we see it deal with it, punt it down the road, just put out the budget, of course? How much of a bit of a hot potato, if you will, Kyle, is this for the government?
Oh, absolutely. It's not only about the timing, but who gets to buy it, and then this price tag. And of course, there's an election that's going to be happening within sometime in the next 18 months. And so a lot of political experts are really curious to see how the federal Liberals deal with this big decision. And it could impact how voters look at the federal Liberals in terms of how they handle their finances, the economy, Indigenous issues, and the environment. And so it is a pretty critical decision. And does the Liberal Party want to go into the election still owning a pipeline, or do they want to sell this project but face a lot of criticism if they do have to sell at a deep discount? Here's one political expert.
Considering that the costs were way above what were expected to complete the extension, I think that if it looks like they're selling it at such a low price that taxpayers are losing so much, they will be an easy target, I think.
And construction is complete now. Oil is going to start moving, we're told, in the next few weeks. But when we were talking about tolls, how much this pipeline is actually going to generate in money in terms of how much it charges to move oil down the pipeline, there still is a fight that's happening between oil companies and the pipeline owner, this Crown Corporation. And so there's going to be a hearing in September to try to settle what the final tolls are going to be. And so that's another obstacle in this wholesale process, because any potential buyer is going to want to know what the actual tolls are, how much money this thing is actually going to make. That hearing is set for September, so that could delay when this sale could ultimately happen.
Kyle, thank you, and I will direct people to our website because you have some further analysis up online for us today. Kyle Bax from Calgary, and then thanks again.